back to the Friarside chat. As always, I'm your host, Vince Mori. As if you're watching on YouTube, you can tell actually it's just me today. My co-host, Brandon Hernandez, is fulfilling his fatherly duties. Can't blame him for it. However, we did want to get an episode out there as Padres are about to head into the National League Divisional Series against the Los Angeles Dodgers. So we could not miss this opportunity to at least get at least a short episode in there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hop right into it. We're going to cover all the big topics and get you prepared for this series against the Dodgers and the Padres. First things first, in case you missed it, Padres swept the Atlanta Braves in two-game wildcard series. Basically, to sum it up in a few kind of short key takeaways, Michael King absolutely dominated, one of the best postseason Padre pitching appearances that we've ever seen. So that was pretty awesome. He had Petco hopping. He was calm and cool. He pitched into the 7th or 8th inning, I think. It was pretty awesome. Couldn't have asked for a better start to get things going in the playoffs. In that same game that King was dominating, Fernando Tatis Jr., to pretty much no surprise, I think it was the first or second pitch that he saw in the series, went deep, almost at the scoreboard in left field. Petco Park got the place on their feet, and they pretty much never looked back. However, there was a big blow in this series as well. Joe Musgrove left game 2 with an elbow injury, and it is looking like he's going to need Tommy John surgery. So Padres probably won't see him on the field again until mid next season. Hopefully that recovery goes well. But that being said, the rest of the bullpen was really able to still, they bent, they did not break. Hoeing came up really big, got a lot of good innings there, and the Padres are able to close out game 2 and win the wild card round. Also, huge shout out, Kyle Higashioka went deep in both ball games, as he tends to do. The dude's kind of just I'm not gonna say all or nothing, because he still gets, other hits and gets other things done, but the dude hits bombs. Like I gotta check out, I didn't look it up, but we got to check out his slugging percentage and OPS. I'm sure it's just off the charts. So huge for Higgy. Fun little side story I saw was on that game. Actually, I don't know which game it was. It might have been the first game of the series, might have been the second one. But for those of you who know a little bit about Higgy's background, he's super chill, kind of laid back dude. Loves shredding on his guitar, loves surfing, just super cool guy. And Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 was in attendance to the game where Higgy goes deep and gives him the guitar from All the Small Things music video back in the day. So that is pretty awesome. Just a little fun side story for you. We love that kind of stuff on this show. So I just had to mark it there for you. But anyway, so that was kind of the recap. Padres versus Braves series. And now National League Divisional Series. Padres are heading up to LA. There's actually a little story that I want to just kind of address, because it's been circulating in the media and it's getting big on X and Instagram and all the thing is a lot of people are complaining. They're like, oh, apparently the Padres aren't selling playoff tickets to Dodger fans. Oh, what the heck? Blah, 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 blah. Like, and then they're just trying to make a big stink out of it. And it's like, this is what all the teams do in the playoffs. Just saying, it's not exclusive to the Padres. They are limiting tickets to San Diego residents, Southern Orange County, Western Arizona, and Las Vegas, I believe. But honestly, all the teams do it. The Padres even did it in 2022. Nobody had any gripe with it. The Padres are filling up Petco Park with record-setting numbers, doing the same thing in the wild card round. It's only coming up now because it's the Dodgers and they're so close in proximity, and Dodgers fans do travel very well. So I think it's one of those stories just to build buzz, just to build hype. So I just kind of wanted to address that quickly, just because it's been all over. If you follow Padres stuff or Dodgers stuff, it's all over everyone's feeds. And it's, in my opinion, kind of a total non-story. That's where I'm just going to leave it at that. So I just wanted to address that one as well. Looking at the series now, at the actual series, Padres are going to be facing Yoshinobu Yamamoto in game 1, and the Padres are going to be throwing Dylan Cease. Now, this was actually I guess a last minute adjustment, because Jack Flaherty was scheduled for as long as the Padres have, once it was determined that the Padres were going to advance, it pretty much looked like it was going to be Jack Flaherty on the mound. but it's going to be Yamamoto in game one. So Yamamoto versus Cease in game one. And then with Musgrove going down, it's now going to be Yu Darvish versus Jack Flaherty in game two. So still really good matchups there. Not sure of the exact reasoning why, but maybe a rest thing, maybe a whatever it may be. Maybe it's a matchup thing. Who knows? But those are going to be the game one and game two starting pitching matchups. Now, last week, Brandon and I did a little game where we looked at the various rosters of the Padres versus the Braves, and we kind of went down the line and we're like, oh, who's got the advantage? Who's got the disadvantage? And kind of tried to use that as a little preview in itself to the series. Going to go ahead and do that same thing. So we just talked about starting pitching. We're going to give the slight edge to the Padres for the starting pitching. But let's be clear, and we said this last time. Obviously, like we're trying to not be biased in this whole thing, just trying to like strip it back. And I'm going to preface this by saying if the Dodgers are healthy, there is no starting pitching lineup in the league, or I can even think maybe even in history, that would be better than what those guys have as far as starting pitching goes. Right now, like I just mentioned, Cease, Darvish, and King are probably going to be the Padres starters. Yamamoto, Flaherty, and then probably Walker Buehler, maybe Landon Knack, maybe Kershaw as their number three. Not really sure yet. Depends on how they want to set those matchups. But for who's hurt on the Dodgers, they've got Glasnow is down, Stone is down, May is down, Gonsolin is down, and Ohtani is down. That's an entire rotation, including, I'd say, two or three of those, like Glasnow, Dustin May, and Ohtani are all all-star pitchers. And then you add that with Yamamoto and Flaherty and be like ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. If it was healthy team versus healthy team, even though the Padres starting pitching is good, it's obvious the Dodgers would have been the advantage. However, it is not the case. That's why I dove into it, and that's why I'm giving the edge to the Padres, like I mentioned, as far as starting pitching goes in this series. Next on the list, we can look at catchers. Kyle Higashioka and Elias Diaz for the Padres, or Will Smith and Austin Barnes for the Dodgers. Now, interesting one. Higgy has been unbelievable this postseason already, homered in both games, and he's one of the better defensive catchers in the game, especially in pitch framing. And Elias Diaz, kind of under the radar, solid backup catcher guy. But then Will Smith, oh man, dude, oh, the dude's too good, I think. Austin Barnes, versatility. Maybe I'll just leave it at that. But Will Smith, now he's been one of the best catchers in the league for last few years. He's probably a top three catcher in the league. Every year, I got to give the edge to the Dodgers on that one. Slight edge, though, because Higgy is hot, and we love Higgy on this show. But slight edge to the Dodgers there. Now moving over to the infield, Padres, Luis Arraez, Jake Cronenworth, Xander Bogaerts, Manny Machado, and the Dodgers with Freddie Freeman, Gavin Lux, Max Muncy, and Miguel Rojas, also known as Miggy Rowe. Um, Man, I really like Freeman and Muncy, but Lux is, has a very high ceiling, doesn't always perform. And then Miggy Rowe, obviously his defense is a defense first guy. Padres are just a little more complete. Yeah, it's got to be Padres. Got to be Padres on the infield. Slight edge. Those guys are just a little bit more well-rounded, I think, and consistent, have shown consistency and just kind of proved it. So I'm giving the edge to the Padres there. Moving on to the next category here. We're going outfield. Padres, Profar, Merrill, Tatis. Come on. But wait, Dodgers. They got Teo in left. They got Tommy Edman, San Diego native in center field. Love that. And Mookie Betts in right. Oof. Oh, man. This is probably as close to, like, in my opinion, a tie as you could possibly get out there. Because, like, it's like Betts and Tatis are probably similar levels as far as what, their overall production, I would say. I think Mookie probably has a little bit more, consistency time over time, but Tatis, sky's the limit. Tommy Edmonds' defense is unmatched, but Merrill's just freaking a little bit better in the box. But Tommy's been hitting really well. And then Profar and Teo, like Teo's got more pop. Profar's got a little bit better bat to ball skills. It could go either way with this. It really could. But based solely off this year, it's got to go Padres just because Profar and Merrill have been kind of out of their minds. But that one is kind of as close as it can get in my mind. Next, bullpen. Man, also really good bullpens here. So key bullpen pieces for the Padres: Tanner Scott, Jason Adam, uh, and Suarez. But I also got Estrada, Morejon, Hoang, really good bullpen there. And then the Dodgers are rolling out Kopech, Phillips, Trinan, Vesia, also San Diego guy. Hudson, dude, good. Really good. Really good. I think both are very deep. Both are very good. Like what Kopech, I like seeing Kopech in that closer role. I know he's kind of bounced around in a bunch of different positions in his career, but um, I think it's just his stuff plays in that closer role because he can hump it up to 100 miles an hour and more. So that's pretty nasty. And then which bumps Evan Phillips to like a setup role. So like for those reasons, it's like a very similar kind of back end stuff there. But I think I got to go Padres again. I just think if you look at like Scott, Adam, Suarez, like you can't really beat that on paper as long as Suarez is doing his thing. Like slight edge to Padres, and I'm sure the Dodgers probably have some injuries. Let's see, do I have there going out? Yeah, Gratterall's hurt. Brent Honeywell's hurt. Like Gratterall, that dude's nasty too. If he's healthy, that's another one where it's potentially Dodgers too. But I don't know. Again, very close. Dodgers are dealing with more injuries. For those reasons and for the back end three, for me, it's got to be the Padres again. And then DH, Solano. Okay, come on. The Dodgers have the best DH in history. Shohei Ohtani by a landslide. Even though we love Donnie Barrels and David Peralta, it's Ohtani. Come on, what are we talking about here? So counting that up, that's 4-2. Padres give the edge. Oh, whoa, shocker. Padres podcast, Padres. But I feel like I justified all those cases, and I would have given ground had the Dodgers been healthy and the Padres players not being as hot as they have been. So that's that breakdown. Love to see it. Let's hop into real quick then to kind of round this out because I don't want to drown this out too much. Again, it's a solo show. We just want to get something out there. Let's talk about what the Padres are going to need to do in order to win the series. Because again, even though the Dodgers are dealing with all these injuries, they are a really good team. And the Padres record, they've kind of had the Dodgers number this year. I don't know the exact record off the top of my head, but the Padres have won the series against the Dodgers a pretty good, like significant amount, or at least in Padres Dodgers history. But I've highlighted three things. Let's talk about three things that the Padres need to do in order to win this series. I think the first thing is first, and probably the biggest one, is that the pitching for the Padres, and I want to say specifically starting pitching, really, really needs to continue to dominate. King needs to keep doing what he's doing. Darvish had a little bit extended rest, which maybe is good for him, but also, also not having that competitive routine, I guess, might be a little bit detrimental to him coming up and just being super sharp right out the gate. And then Cease, of course, going now. They need to neutralize Shohei Ohtani. I think that's the biggest thing. They need to dominate like they did against the Braves. And they need to find a way to neutralize the best player anyone's probably ever seen. We saw it in the last series where the Padres played the Dodgers in Chavez Ravine, and honestly, the Padres were playing really well, and they were in a position to win each one of those games. However, and they pulled out game one, but then game 2 and 3, it was Ohtani, and it was no shocker, right? It was runners in scoring position, even if it was like 2 outs. But it's like, guess what? The best player who's ever played is up, and he's going to beat you. And I know sometimes people say like, oh, well, if I don't know, he's going to beat you kind of thing. But it's like, nope. Like, I don't know. If I'm managing, like, that guy's not going to beat me. It's like Austin Barnes can beat me. Tommy Edman can beat me. Those guys can beat me all day. Kudos to them if they can beat me. But like, come on, with Ohtani that he's going to do something amazing. So personally, I don't even take the risk. Does that mean intentionally walk him? Maybe not. But, intentional walk, I'm not mad about. And I know it's hard. I know it's really difficult with all the protection that he has with Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman falling up, probably the two best guys you could possibly have behind a guy like Ohtani. And so for those reasons, I'm like, well, that's all the more reason why the pitching needs to be dominant, especially at facing the bottom of the lineup, right, for the Dodgers, right? Like that is when you're facing the Lux, the Edmund, Barnes, the whoever, TK Hernandez, all those, Mickey Rowe. Those are the kind of guys at the back end of the lineup for the Dodgers. And so if you can really neutralize those guys, prevent them from getting on base, then at least you're facing Ohtani with minimal damage that he can do if it's just him up, nobody else on. So that's kind of that's at least how I see it. If you can dominate the bottom of the lineup with the starting pitching and the bullpen, then don't even give Ohtani those opportunities, because then it's not if he beats you, but it's when he beats you, you can at least mitigate the damage in that way. So that's number one. That's the big one for me. I think another big key I'm going to lock in on is I think the Padres obviously don't want to be too crazy and get too aggressive, swinging too many balls, but they got to hop on those starters. They got to get those starters out of the game, because like I just talked about in these comparisons of the teams, the Dodgers are very limited on their starting pitching at the moment. Now there's still some quality guys in there and the bullpen is good. However, if you can create a war of attrition where you're either, you're hopping on Yamamoto, getting him out after 3 or 4 innings. So that could either be scoring a lot of runs, or that could just be fouling off a ton of pitches, taking a lot of, get him out just on pitch count by like the 4th or 5th inning. That's going to be huge in the series, because then they're having to tap into that bullpen. And while, yes, it is a good bullpen, you can also make their effectiveness go down if you make them throw more and more and more pitches, right, as you continue to go. So if you can do that to Yamamoto in game 1, if you can get Flaherty, same kind of deal, either hop on him early or get him through a lot of pitches, I think that's going to set up the Padres really well, because we do have a little bit more of that depth. I have a couple more guys in the bullpen that can go a lot of innings. Hoeing has shown he can go 4 innings easy, Martin Perez is still a guy we haven't even really talked about too much. Starter, he can give you some length. Marihone even at one point was a starter. He could probably give you some length. So if you're able to turn the series, in my opinion, into a little bit more of war of attrition kind of thing on the pitching front, I think the Padres are just in a better position to survive through that and ultimately win the series. And then the last one, I think it's pretty obvious. This applies to all playoff teams. When the lights are bright, stars have to shine. Got to be clutch. Padres, there's going to be opportunities, right? There's going to be opportunities, maybe not too many with, again, Dodgers a very good ball club. But when there are those small opportunities, you got to come up big. You got to have the clutch hit. You can't strike out. And the good news is that this Padre team is clutch. We've seen a ton of walk-offs this year. They win in extra innings. They don't strike out. They put the ball in play. Those are all the things that you need to be clutch. You can even go down the line. Like, all of these guys have had huge moments this year. Toddy, Machado, Profar, Merrill, Arise. Cronenworth was a hero in 2022 against the Dodgers. How would you love to see Xander Bogaerts get a huge hit for the Padres? How awesome would that be? Talk about a guy who needs that. And Higgy, freaking Higgy. He'll probably hit a bomb at some point. But anyways, again, that one's a little bit cliche, but it's the truth. And that's why it's cliche, right? Cliches have to have some truth behind them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be used so much. So those are my big things. Those are my big 3. I think if the Padres can do that, then they're in a very good position to win the series. Only time will tell. We are super stoked about this one. There are going to be 2 games in Los Angeles, day off, and then the series is going to be coming back to San Diego. Hopefully by then the Padres are in a position to clinch and head to the National League Championship Series. But either way, it's going to be an awesome series. It always is. Padres-Dodgers baseball, I'd say at this point in time, is one of the best rivalries in the game. So it's good for baseball. It's good for Padre fans. It's good for Dodger fans. 5:30 tonight. Make sure you're tuning in. We'll be talking about it. And we are stoked. Thank you for joining the show. Any questions, comments, things we missed, anything like that, would love to hear it. Leave a comment. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. All the plugs, leaving it for the end. But either way, let's go Pods. We will see you next time. Thanks for joining. Later.